well known across the globe. Let me give you a few lines of Anwar Iqbal Saab, which I have here. Anwar Iqbal Saab is currently working as Dawn correspondent in Washington. Over 25 years of experience with various international media organizations covering major events. He has interviewed world leaders like US President Barack Obama, George W. Bush. Why didn't mention Bin Laden? You interviewed him.
But he was not the US president.
He had honor to be honorary fellow at University of Wisconsin. He had, Anwar Iqbal Saab also had honor to work as a fellow at Writers in Oxford, London. Please welcome me, Anwar Iqbal Saab.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Khurram, and thank you, the State Department, for giving us this opportunity to explain ourselves. Well, I'll go straight to the subject. What I was asked to talk about is the importance of newsroom in the media. And the reason I was asked to talk about is that I have had the opportunity of being trained at newsrooms, and this is my son, so I have to, sorry. I was trained first in Pakistan when I used to work for The Muslim, which was a newspaper published from Islamabad. Those of you who are from my generation would know that it was a liberal, very different from the name that she showed. It was it was against Ziaulat and against religious parties, but was still called The Muslim. So I was trained there, and then I was trained in Britain at the Sunday Times newsroom and the New Statesman, and then I spent some time at the newsroom in Chicago Tribune, and ended up working for them for almost 12 years. And then I also worked at United Press International, which is now, unfortunately, is not as big and as active as it used to be in my time. I still have my stories from those days which are published in, say, New York Times or International Herald Tribune, but those days are long gone. And so I worked in their newsroom for 5 years. So I thought that it gives me some perspective, some knowledge to talk about the newsroom, the importance of newsroom, or the way the newsroom culture is now gradually disappearing from Pakistan. And whenever I talk about the newsroom, it always reminds me of a poster I saw at the Sunday Times, London. And the poster, it was a very interesting poster. It said, "The biggest urge on earth is," and it gave several options. The first option was hunger, the second was sleep, the third was sex, and then they were all cut out, and they said the strongest urge on earth was a sub-editor's desire to edit a reporter's copy. So I think it is true, and that's why it creates sort of bad feelings between a reporter and a sub-editor or a copy editor, as we call them in the United States. But most of you also by now, because you have all been working in this field for quite some time now, I think, several years at least, you know how important a role a sub-editor or the newsroom plays. And what happens in Pakistan is that, particularly in TV channels, but also in newspapers now, the newsroom is gradually losing the place it enjoyed in the media. Now, they do have newsrooms, but people in the newsroom do not have, I think, perhaps Dawn is the only exception, they do not have the power or the authority to decide what news to take or not to take. They don't have the power or the authority to edit a story as they want, except, of course, changing, correcting grammar or things like that. But they don't have the power to decide what to take and what not to take. And in most cases, newspapers and TV channels in Pakistan do not even have an editor. Most of the editors are also owners of that channel or that newspaper, and for them the most important thing is the commercial interest and that's why you will often see that the front page of a newspaper would have like 4 or 5 large ads, and about like 35% space would be left for news. And the same thing happens on other pages sometimes if they get the ad. And also within the news, there's a lot of interference from the owners, and you see the commercial interests of the owner reflecting in the news coverage as well. And when organizations like the US State Department and or other international organizations, when they go to a place like Pakistan and they try to train journalists, somehow they also end up focusing on a reporter. Because they are the ones whom they meet, they are the ones who they think are important for them. Because obviously when a State Department or any other government department or a commercial organization funds a program, it has an objective behind it. And objective for instance, in the sense of the State Department, is to project the image of the United States in a better way and to correct the misgivings or disinformation that is often spread in countries like Pakistan. And for that, they think a reporter is probably better to deal with. But I always say that if you want to improve the level of journalism, if you want to improve the coverage of the media, if you want to make a journalist better equipped, you must also focus on the newsroom, on training the copy editors, on training the sub-editors in TV channels. Because, I mean, you will often meet a reporter who is well qualified in a news organization in Pakistan. Most of them would have had MA degrees from various universities. But when you go to the newsroom, you will see it is very different. Many people are not well qualified, not well trained, and they're paid very badly. I mean, even say a newspaper like Dawn, if a reporter is paid say about 60,000 at least now, even a junior reporter is paid over 60,000 rupees, a sub-editor is paid 35,000 rupees. Yeah. So a person who is paid just 35,000 rupees, which is the salary of a clerk in Pakistan, how would you expect, first of all, to get a good qualified person for that job, and how would you expect him or her to do justice to his or her work? And but instead of sort of making a long speech, because I'm a reporter, I always sit on the other side of a stage, and always my job is to listen to people talk about whatever they want to talk about, and I know that in five minutes or so you lose interest, you do not stop listening to them. So I thought we should make it an interactive session, and I would start sort of with asking you, what do you think is, number one, the most important problem in the newsroom in the Pakistani media? And then we will sort of consider other problems and see how we come around and deal with it. So what do you think is okay, let's start with this, with you.
Do I have to? Like you mentioned, I'm a sub-editor at the Express Tribune. So you're right that most of the control of a news story is with a sub-editor than a reporter, because the reporter just files the story and the sub-editor is sort of like tempted to edit the story. So one of the concerns is that, again, the sub-editors, because they stay in the newsroom, they don't have much exposure, unfortunately. So sometimes their biases do creep into the stories. Even though the reporter might want to say something else because he was on field. And there's like a distance, unfortunately, that is very apparent between a sub-editor and a news reporter in newsrooms in Pakistan.
Now, how many of you think that a reporter in Pakistan, TV or newspaper, has the freedom to write what he or she sees or wants to say?
It's not the case. I guess we don't have. There are you talked about importance of newsroom and like how things work there, but I guess there are organizational policies, because not even in Pakistan, I have seen in US as well, like media organizations, they don't do professional journalism. They do business. They do it for business. So currently, like media and journalism is a profit-based business. It is not being practiced as a profession. So of course, like being a reporter, I work with Sama TV. So being a reporter, and of course being a female, मुझे बहुत सारा, I have like so many issues and barriers while filing a story, because they're like organizational policies, they have like good advertisers, we can't file story against, and of course like there is a cream if that is like dangerous for people. We can't tell anybody like Fair and Lovely is not good for skin because they give us good advertisement. Like we can't tell people like Coca-Cola is not good for them because like they give us advertisement. So this is not journalism. Like we can do journalism on our own. Like and I guess social media is I don't consider it as a proper channel or platform where we can present our work, because it's authenticity ka issue aa jata hai. But like the problem is we face this issue, policy issues, and of course until and unless when a reporter files a story, it reaches to editor and sub-editor and to bureau, it was like some other thing. Sometimes I don't even recognize my story. Oh my God, what they have done to my story. So this is...
Take your point. I mean, there's a little difference between here in the United States and Pakistan. I worked for American news organization for years. Here, at least what you write, they may improve the language, but they do not change the content. But in Pakistan, they do all the time. I mean, like it has happened to me so many times. I say it happens even at dawn. When I call the newsroom and to discuss a story, and the person who answers the phone, I know now what he or she is going to do to do with my story, because I know who she is. Say, for instance, I mean, I'll be very frank. If she is an Urdu speaker, and the story is, for instance, about MQM, I would know that no matter what I say, that the story will have a pro MQM slant. If the sub-editor is a Baloch, it will have a different slant. If it's a Punjabi, it will have a different slant. Similarly, religious discriminations also apply. So that does not happen in the United States. But yes, I agree with you. So a reporter in Pakistan, let's focus on Pakistan, and I agree with you. I mean, first of all, my first observation is that there is no such thing as objective journalism or objective reporting, because objectivity depends on how you look at it it depends on your angle. And this was demonstrated to me by a very famous Pakistani artist. You must have heard of him, all of you, Sadiq Khan. You know him, right? Once we were discussing this thing, and we were sitting across the table. He put a paper in between, and he wrote Mohsin, Mohsin. And he said, look, from my angle, it is Mohsin. And what is it from your angle? So I read it was Nisho, Nisho, the same word. From the other side, it was Nisho. And he said that we can sit here and discuss it all night. I will say that Mohsin is my friend and he does this or he does that. And he will say, I know Nisho, she is a woman and she does whatever she does. And you will be right, because for you, Nisho is a female name and Mohsin is a male name. So just the difference of angle makes such a huge difference. So,
sir, don't you think that this is because of the organization? For example, I want to cover in a different way. जो आपने कहा, जो आपने observe किया, जो देखा, उसको बयान करें. लेकिन चूंकि हमारे पास फिर organization की बात आती है कि वो आपसे क्या चाहते हैं, तो just like फिर again वो बात आती है ना, risk रोटी की बात आती है कि आपने करना पड़ेगा.
Exactly. I'm coming to that. So, in Britain, I had the opportunity of working at the same time for one left-wing and one right-wing organization. The Sunday Times and the New Statesman. And there was an arson attack in a place in London called Ilford. And the news editor at the New Statesman said, Anwar, go and attack it. It's a racist attack. It is all racism, pure racism, nothing else. I said, okay. And the news editor at the Sunday Times said, Anwar, you need to be a little careful, you know. I mean, these persons had warnings before, and they should have moved out. They did not. So it was also their mistake. It was not really racism. So, I mean, like you see, the same event, I have received two very different instructions about the same event from two different news editors. So, yes, I agree with you. And what you said, commercial interest. So what do you suggest? I mean, you guys, you're from NWFP. Now I'm moving to another very sensitive subject. your freedom.
Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Anwar bhai.
I'm sorry, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. I'm so sorry. KP. Thank you very much. I mean, it's really shame for me because I've lived in Peshawar and I know I'm aware of the sentiments from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So there is this pressure from the owners and there is this pressure from the newsroom. But what about other external pressures, say from militants? This was something that I faced a lot when I was based in Peshawar reporting for the Muslim, and those were the days of the Afghan Jihad, and there were events when things were actually staged, and one very famous American journalist did that too. I think it was Dan Rather or somebody. He fell for it as well, and the entire sort of event was fake. It was organized inside the tribal area and it was presented as a battle inside Afghanistan, which it was not. So how much of that do you face?
Should I?
Please.
Okay. Actually, I am from FATA Khyber agency, so I would like to know about it. That actually we don't have such restriction to cover the story. But what happens when we cover the story? When we send our story to our news organization, if they are interested, they publish it. If they are not interested, they do not. But as you talked about the external forces, yes, actually we are facing very much, you can say that facing very much challenges, because first of all, we don't have Press and Publication Act extension to the FATA. So we are doing journalism without having like Press and Publication extension, or you can say any social type of security. And beside this, we are facing very much challenges from the militants group, from the security groups. Actually, you have seen that a lot of journalists from FATA has been died while during
How many have been killed in
14 to 15. 14 to 15 has been killed, and the Mahbub Shah Afridi was the last one. Actually, without this, if you have seen, there was something happened to Khyber news journalist and Mashal radio journalist Farhad Shinwari. Actually, during the peace rally, someone has, you can say, the planted the bomb under his car. So actually, they were also participants of that rally to cover the rally. So actually, when they entered to area, some people told them that. What is now hanging from your under your car? So when they checked, they called the security forces, and after their security forces arrested them and they tortured them, and you can say they beat them. But after that, what we did, we went to Peshawar Press Club, and we also informed the other press clubs members. So actually, we went out for the demonstration and we protested, and after that.
I want to add something. So how many times do you think your newsroom changes the story that you file?
Actually, it depends on the story. If they don't want, they can change it every time. If they don't want.
Without asking you?
Yeah.
Without consulting you?
And there is another thing also, actually. At the time of militants, when I was in SWAT, and I was covering it, so there was a big problem for us to even in terminology. Because when the Taliban, I mean, we couldn't write terrorist or militants. They said we are unified. Like you should must write Mujahid. And we couldn't do it because the military and the establishment. Then we were like a sandwich.
So the newsroom, if you wrote say terrorist, the newsroom would change it to Mujahid.
No,
They would
extremists.
extremists.
Or like
Extremists.
they can play with the words, but yes, most of the time, like content is also changed, and many times, like I guess I fight daily because I have like issues. Why are you changing my words? Why are you doing this? I don't want to do this. Why are you letting me do this? And they're like, okay, fine. And I guess Sama is the only organization they are like bearing me from last 3 years. Otherwise, like Express, they won't bear it. Geo, okay, they're fine with that too. They stand by with their reporters, with their correspondents, and Sama is like bearing me because I tell them, okay, I don't want to work on this story because I don't want to. And because this is not the story that you want me to work, or this is the story that I want to work on, and I want my story this way. But like most of the time, yes, I feel a lot of hurdles, and of course, but I guess I do politics in Pakistan, and I guess it's one tough stuff there because you don't have to deal with the only politicians, you have to deal with other departments and organizations as well while covering politics and all that stuff. So most of the time we have to deal stuff like somebody's like I used to hear these stuff like, are the spoon feeders of politicians and all that stuff. Like, these are things that we hear. So they change this content, they change the stuff.
I would have loved to continue this discussion, but I think I ran out of time. What I would like to do is, when the speeches end, we could give another interactive session in that.
comment once and
I was just saying, like, normally when journalists are saying something in front of camera or they are writing something, they do care. But in our case, when journalists working in Peshawar and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, even they feel threatened when someone is sitting in Karachi and they are saying something like against the militant or saying something which they don't like. Yeah. So ultimately the Peshawar Bureau, so like we receive alerts from the police that do care for these things. So it's not only the
It's the same in Lahore, because I was covering the Khadim Rizvi part stuff. I covered Maulanas, being a female, and most of the people, they have like issues like.
Well, sorry, I'm interrupting. Was it a problem for you to go dress up like this? Could you go dress up like this?
Of course I can't go dress up like this. Like
what do the Maulanas say?
recently covered.
I'm sorry. I just let me share something. A very interesting experience. I went to interview Maulana Fadhur Rahman with a journalist from New York, Hannah, and Maulana's youngest brother, he came to me and he said, Anwar Saab, bas faisla ho gaya, it's decided. I said, what's decided? I'm marrying her. I said, you're marrying her? I said, yes, you know, we are very rich, we have so much money, so you talk to her and arrange it. So I said to her, look, the thing we need to do, her last name was, her first name was Garlic, or last name was Garlic, I don't remember. So we said, look, Sian Garlic. I said, Sian, what we need to do is, that we will not tell them we are supposed to leave tomorrow, but we leave this evening, but we will not tell anyone, just put everything in the car, we go around, the icon, do whatever we want to do, and then we boarded the plane and escaped to Islamabad.
It's not even are you talking about like the flirt stuff, but I'm talking about the actual work stuff. Like I have been covering these people. Ye Khadim Rizvi Saab ko I remember, like when I went to his jalsas, I used to stay for like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. because they were giving dharnas and all that stuff with all the dandas in their hands and me alone in between them. And until and unless I don't get to that person and talk to him, okay, fine, I'm your friend. And they were like, his followers were they're literally their sticks were on my head. And they were like, अब तो ये मौलाना साहब से मिलके आ गए तो ये हमारे मुहतरम हो गए. And for that, I was not respectable for them. So after meeting that person,
So the joke, you know the joke about,
respectable person.
you know the joke about Tarana and Qawmi Tarana, right? But anyway, so let's just end
It's
this.
the same, like I guess everywhere.
Let's just end this. But what I'll do is, because I also wanted to talk about how to deal with this pressure and how to write stories in a way that despite all this censorship and self-censorship, you succeed in at least getting most of what you wrote, getting it published. I do it every day with Dawn, so I wanted to discuss that. Let's do it after, in the next interactive session. Thank you.